AskReddit by Alice Ongsut. What is something that old people love that you don't understand? I'm a window cleaner and have a lot of elderly customers. Over the years I found they love to be the first one to tell me one of the neighbors has died. To the point where if I say yeah, Thelma already let me know, they look genuinely disappointed and annoyed that they weren't the one to break the news to me. They just seem to like gossip in general. Death will certainly qualify. Telling you who died recently, famous or not famous. My mom would ask, do you remember Mary Bly? I'd reply no, so she would add, she was our neighbor on High Street, she had those two boys who were 7 years older than you? But bottom line was always, well, she's dead now. I've reached the tipping point. I love my hedge and some drunk kid fell in it. Big hole. Will take 4 years to grow back. This get off my lawn moment awakened the old in me. Please just put a big round door there and live as a hobbit. In my country, Brazil, old people sit in front of their houses and do absolutely nothing for hours, just watching people and cars go by. This is more common for lower social class. For instance, my grandma and her friends gather every day at someone's door and just sit there until the night comes. They are retired. I live in a very rural part of America, and old people do the same thing here. Old men will sit in front of their houses drinking beer and waving at cars that go by. It seems really nice actually. Guess there comes a point where you're content to just sit back and let the world come to you. There is this weird type of traditional Vietnamese music my parents said that only old people like and they could not stand it either. A decade later and apparently they enjoy it. I await my turn in fear. Edit, for those asking, it is CLNG. This is going to draw some hate, but once I reached my 50s Bruce Springsteen's library suddenly became enjoyable. I'd always liked bits of his work here and there, but once I got old enough, bam, I get it. Oldie here. I worked for a Canadian clothing store called Marks. I used to point our new arrivals to my daughter to see if she liked them, and she would say ugh. Those are old people clothes. One day she came in, looked around and said, you guys are starting to get some pretty good stuff. I laughed because nothing had really changed, and watched the expression on her face change as it slowly dawned on her. This reminds me of something a friend did several years ago. We went to the local courthouse to visit a friend of mine, and as we were leaving, my friend peeked into the courtroom window to see if there was anyone in there that she knew. There was a guy who went to school with us who was just a year older in there. My friend said, holy crap, so and so is in there. Have you seen him lately? My god, he looks about 50 years old. We were 45 at the time. I just waited and said nothing. And about a minute later, we stepped into the elevator, and she said, well, oh no. Oh god. I laughed until I cried. Watching the news constantly. My wife's grandmother was in long-term memory care for several years before her death. Towards the end, she didn't know what day it was, or if it was morning or evening, but she watched CNN 24 hours a day, and would lose her shit if somebody changed the channel, because she wanted to know what was going on. I'm 73. Yes, I know what Reddit is. I love retirement. Playing tennis with friends, then complaining about shit over coffee and a donut. Tinkering with stuff until I break it, then calling a qualified technician. Gives my wife something to bitch about. Playing WoW when you snot-nosed kids are in school so I don't get killed trying to complete a quest. Skiing midweek at senior rates when the slopes are empty. That's just for starters. Living the dream. Telling anyone who will listen about their various ailments. Look, I'm 57, so I'm ancient by Reddit standards. But I vowed early on that I will not become one of these oversharing old people. My mill suffers from a paper-thin vagina. The rest of us suffer from hearing about it. Sitting hours behind those slot machines. All the casino ads make it look like you'll be gambling in Monaco with a bouncy, joyful group of young people, then you go in and it's endless rows of blank-faced elves jamming on those buttons. Asian kid growing up with grandparents using Eagle brand green ointment like it's cologne. Never understood it. Now that I'm older, every muscles hurts after hitting 30. And I'm using the ointment like it's holy water. Bitching about everything on the Nextdoor app. That and what are those loud explosions? Well, Barbara, it's the 4th of July. Also, why was the ambulance at the convenience store? They were probably tending to something that isn't any of your business, Frederick. I love Nextdoor, lol. Watching the news obsessively. My dad has crossed over into this territory. Dude, I feel like I'm the parent now. I go to my parents' house and I'm like, okay, 1 hour of news only. Then turn the TV off and go do something outside. Walk the dog. Ride your bike. Go maquillade with someone in the backseat of your car. I don't give a shit, just go outside. Facebook adding your own name to a comment like great photos, love mum and John. I fucking know it's you, Maureen. It shows me you're when you comment. My mom loves to wish people happy birthday on Facebook her page, without tagging them. Fine china and silverware. It's pretty in the way anything made in bulk can be, it's expensive, has very little resale value, fragile as fuck, and virtually useless unless you're trying to impress another old person. Personal opinion, no hate. I use my grandmother's fine china as everyday plates. Even put them in the dishwasher. Freaks my mother out, but they are plates. They are serving their purpose in life. Why would I have extra plates I don't use except for holidays? Soap operas. I get bored after 30 minutes. How does someone watch 500 episodes? My mom, who is in her 70s and retired, explained this one to me. She enjoys her daytime soaps because so little happens that she can have them on while she cleans around the house and doesn't feel like she misses anything. Some she's been watching so long that she says they've recycled the same plot half a dozen times over the past 20 years. Oh my god, just sitting down in my recliner is glorious. Younger people may think I'm nuts, but I have so much stuff going on, it's nice to just sit down and relax. I inherited my great-grandma's old lazy boy recliner and it's my favorite spot in the house. I love chilling in my old lady chair. Obsessed with the weather. My partner's grandmother house sat while we were away for a trip and made sure to record the weather details for us of every day we were gone. In all fairness, I've lived most of my life in Oklahoma. Weather has always been a concern. Telling us what they used to call Brazil nuts. Then giggling about it. Walking around naked in the gym locker room. In a way, I admire their lack of self-consciousness. Now that I'm old, I just like to travel to places to look at the scenery. 20-year-old me would not understand the point of that at all. Thank you notes. As a kid, I thought as long as you thank someone in person, there's no need to write a note specifically to thank them again. But when I do receive such a note, it makes me think that person is super kind and thoughtful, a genuinely good soul. Everyone who learned to drive before GPS still love having in-depth conversations about alternative routes, even if they now use their phone's maps and can see all the different options and about how long each would take. They'll give you landmarks that haven't been there in 20 years. Turn left at the building that the Kmart used to be at, then turn right where the old Roy Rogers restaurant used to be. Both those places closed when I was very young. IDK where the fuck they were. I just let them go on about it, then use GPS if I need to. They love to refuse to learn new things, insisting that they just can't. My mom still can't use a smartphone or a computer and keeps getting scammed. She says it's cause she isn't a nerd and didn't grow up with them. I told her the personal computer has now been around for about 40 years. Doesn't matter. Writing checks in the supermarket line. China, the plates and stuff. I don't get what the appeal is to have something you hardly use, that takes up a bunch of space, and yet functions literally the same as any other ordinary dish. Social status. You were doing well if you had fancy plates to use for entertaining. Plus you'd get it as wedding gifts. My mom, 83, doesn't understand why no one wants her china or her fancy dining room furniture. I have my grandmother's china because it reminds me of her and it only gets used for the holidays. It was a way to show off what you had acquired, kinda like how people do on Instagram or Facebook. Ambrosia salad. Touching strangers' babies. Why is that? My husband's grandma will lunge towards a baby like a hyena trying to steal from a lion. She then starts getting in the baby's face while dancing like an idiot and trying to smooch their puffy baby cheeks. She doesn't care what the parents' guardians say either and will respond with, "It's okay, they're laughing." She wigs me out as an adult cause she has no view of personal space. I feel bad for those parents. Asking people when they are getting married and having kids. I'm 27 and it's incessant from my grandparents and mother. BTW, when are you gonna settle down? Precious moments figurines. Yeah, give it 50 years and everyone will be complaining about grandpa's Funko collection. Hard candies. It's weird. I really like Jolly Ranchers and Werthers. But those aren't the candies you're talking about. I know the ones you're talking about. They're in a bowl at a grandma's house, and I've never seen them for sale at any store. They're vile and oddly flavorless, because the candy industry in the 1950s determined that flavor was too expensive. Keeping the room really, really warm. As people age, they gradually lose their ability to regulate temperature, making them feel colder. It's a reason that Florida is so popular with retirees. My pop's constantly checking his rain gauge XD. My grandpa had like 50 years worth of rain logged by the time he went. Old lady perms. Those types are about to die out, but I still see little blue-haired ladies out and about. I don't get it. They only wash their hair once a week and it just doesn't look good. A truly fascinating thing I recently learned: a blue or purple rinse is something you can do if blonde hair is brassy or yellowish. Anyone who bleaches their hair has probably used a purple shampoo once or twice to cancel out the yellow. Here's the tricky bit though: as we age, our color perception changes and many older people develop a yellowish tint to their vision. And some people speculate that this means they always see their hair as brassy yellow and therefore go much harder with the toners, see the blue tones as closer to white. They love asking me what I'm doing with my life. So what are you doing with your life? When I was a kid, all the adults around me loved black licorice. I hated it and thought I would rather eat my own shoes than eat black licorice. I figured that it was a grown-up thing and that I would start to like it when I grew up. And would still rather eat my shoes. Working way over your scheduled hours for no pay. To show that you are a good hard-working person. I always think of the person who said 20 years later, the only people who will remember you working all those extra hours are your children. QVC. My nana's old TV had the old QVC logo burned into the screen. Televangelists. Yes. My mother is 72 and is obsessed with the good godly man Joel Osteen. She flips back and forth between televangelist channels and Fox. I'm 60 and my brother just told me I'm too nostalgic and need to quit complaining about the cost of things and glorifying the old days. He is absolutely right. Well, shit did get more expensive. Remember when you could get a candy bar for a quarter? IDK, but I can't wait to be old and tell everyone what a whore I used to be. My great aunt was like this. She was where I learned the phrase "I rode that boy like a rented pony." When my siblings and I were preteens, my mom would get mad at her because she was constantly telling us how hard she used to fuck. Meanwhile we were totally oblivious to what she was saying. I remember thinking what a funny phrase rented pony was. I had no idea what she was saying. Waking up early. Grandma, you are tired. Why would you not sleep in every day? They lose the ability to do so. Something about hormones if I recall it correctly. I'm not even 40 and I can't sleep past 8. Liver and onions. I used to never understand how my grandparents or other people their age could lead such boring lives. They would spend most of their time at home, working in their garden, doing little things around the house. My grandfather would go out into his garage shop and tinker on stuff. As a kid-teen they were the most boring people in the world. At 37, I get it. I do. I'm being pulled in so many different directions and places with work, family, kids, etc. that I long for nothing more than a quiet weekend at home with no plans. Going 35 miles per hour on the highway. Just stay off the damn highway, Margaret, you're actually making everything worse for everyone and clearly you're in no rush. I don't think they have any idea what speed they are doing when a few miles down they pass you doing 85 or better. Using ellipsis everywhere. A person I work with ends every sentence like that. Hope you're okay. Well, that job turned out alright. Makes it sound ominous. Manipulating someone's behavior through guilt trips. Being assisted by young children means the world to them for some reason. This one is easy to explain, I think. 1. When you have kids, you fall helplessly in love with them, of course. 2. The golden years of childhood, maybe 5-11, fly by for parents very, very quickly. 3. Then suddenly your beautiful kid who you were so close to becomes a surly distant teen sob and would rather not hang out with you. This is good, of course, they need to do their own thing, and it's all over. 4. Later in life you remember your kid's childhood as a period of great personal happiness. 5. At age 70, interacting with a 5-11-year-old again brings back so many memories and an almost overwhelming surge of love. Andre Roux. Lawrence Welk. I used to work at a PBS station and had to see it every week. Occasionally they would show older BW clips from the 50s 60s and they were sponsored by Geritol. This show was targeted at old people 60-70 years ago. Where have all the new old people come from that love this so much?